Alright, so this is the game Gone Home, and I think it has some really nice level design elements that we can talk about. So I wanted to start a new game and just talk a little bit about some of the things I noticed at the very beginning of the game that I think are important. Um, so they're just showing us the controls here. That's not a bad thing to do before you start the game. And I'm just going to skip the beginning voicemail thing here. Now, right off the bat, notice how the player character is oriented. So they have intentionally pointed the camera at the player's first goal. And that might seem trivial, but I'm telling you, it's not always. It's overlooked on occasion, especially by new designers. And then the next thing I want to point out is this note. The note is perfectly at the player's eye level. It's going to be really hard for me to miss this note. And so if there's something important that you want the player to see, put it at eye level. Don't put it like down in a small obscure spot or in the corner of the screen. And that goes for UI elements as well. Like if you want me to know how much ammo I have, put it like in the center of the screen, not in the corner. Alright, so they've established some basic setting and storytelling with this note. I know my goal. They're teaching me how to interact with things right off the bat. This display text is giving me feedback about what I can try to do and why it is or isn't working. And so they've sort of introduced the first puzzle of the game here, and there's no way for me to progress in the game. This is like a really small intro room here, and there's no way. I can't leave. I can't get into the house. There's no way for me to move forward until I've solved this puzzle, and solving this puzzle is going to teach me everything I need to know about this game. So that is the best way to handle a tutorial, is to give the player a challenge and make it so that they cannot progress until you are confident as a designer that they have learned that challenge and mastered the gameplay involved in it. And so the gameplay of Gone Home is essentially exploring, interacting with objects, learning what you can and can't do in the environment, looking at stuff. And so when I picked this duck up, the first thing that I see, I know the camera is pointed right here because I have to point at the duck to pick it up. So if I pick up that duck, I will see the key. And the display text here in the UI is telling me that that is the house key. They're giving me nice feedback that's telling me I have the house key. I can look at my inventory and verify that I have the key. I can remember what it was and how I found it. And now I can go into the house. Another thing I kind of want to point out is this inventory is actually doing a little bit of storytelling in and of itself. I can see what belongings the player character has and learn a little bit more about the character and the setting of the game. Alright, so I open the door and there's a nice little scripted event. I think one of the few scripted events in the game Gone Home here. So the lights are flickering on and I'm in the house. So this is a really cool moment of the game in my opinion. We essentially have like three ways to go. We can go up the steps, which I think are foreboding because there's darkness at the top, but there is a lot of attention drawn with the lighting to the stairway, but it's just leading into darkness, and it's straight ahead. So it is a clear path there, but it may not be the first spot I go because the setting of the game is kind of spooky, and that seems foreboding to me. To the right is totally dark, except for a little right here, so I can kind of see this is another path that I could take, but this is very dark, so I don't think I'll do that either. To the left, we have a light guiding me this direction, but more importantly, I have a light here, and I have an open door. And I can see basically that this is a bathroom. It's a limited area. And so I feel confident that I can explore this area, and it's not just going to lead into this another huge area and then create this sort of telescoping complexity that's going to confuse me as I try to learn my way around this house. So I think, and anecdotally, most of my students will almost always go in this bathroom first, and I think it makes a lot of sense. And so this is one way that even though we have given the player the freedom to sort of go wherever they want right now, we're still pushing them. We're using the tools we have as a designer, like leaving this door open, using lighting, making these other areas foreboding, that are going to funnel most players in a predictable way. And when you go in this bathroom, there's not too much to do, but you do start to learn about turning lights on, which is going to be an important thing in the game. And really, we can use the lights on and off as a way to understand where we've been already. The same with like opening things. If we leave everything open, it's easier to understand what we've already looked at. So another thing I think is worth checking out, if we go over here, there is a voicemail answering machine, I guess is what these things used to be called. And one thing I would maybe critique is I would consider adding like a blinking red light or something on this. If we put a blinking red light on that, it would be really clear to the player and draw my attention to it. As it stands, I kind of have to walk and look at it and know it's there to get it to highlight. But a blinking red light with like the number of messages would have been really awesome in my opinion. Here I can turn the lamp on, and I want to, it's again like an example of how they're taking advantage of how we know the player's looking right here. I turn it on, boom, there's no way I'm going to miss this note. So that's pretty clever placement. Players are going to naturally want to turn the lights on, and then they're going to see this easily. So in this hallway, there is an example of 3D sound that I want to also talk about as a way to guide the player. I go through the hallway, the lights are on, so it kind of leads me. The rug is kind of guiding me, and it's a relatively linear path. But as we explore the house here, eventually we might notice a locked door, can't go that way. And I want to find the TV. Let's see if I can remember where it is. Oh, here we go. So at this point, if I'm coming, I kind of messed up my video by not going here first, and I think it's because I have the volume turned down. But at this point, I can hear the TV in the other room. And so this is a useful mechanism that can guide me in here. I want to know what's making this sound effect. And because the positional audio has a source in that room, if I follow the sound that I'm hearing in the hallway, it will lead me in here. And the lighting right here is definitely going to guide me to the TV. So I just wanted to call out that use of positional audio as another way we could guide the player. Alright, so the last thing I want to look at in this video is upstairs. And I think one thing I think is always interesting, if I were just coming home from wherever and I'm in my, visiting my parents' house, I think the first thing I would do maybe is go upstairs and see if anybody was home. But it's interestingly not something I normally do in this game, or I see students do in this game, and I think it's because of how creepy they made it look up here. But if I wanted to know someone is home, I would probably like check the garage or look and see if there were people upstairs sleeping. Anyhow, if we make our way up here, there is eventually this dark room, and again we have a sign right at eye level, and it's telling me this is Sam's dark room, do not enter if the lights are on, and the lights are on, and it is this is like definitely going to get your attention, and this is ultimately where the finale of the game takes place. And so I would wager almost every player is really going to want to get in here. I mean, it's circled with red lights, so we really want to understand what's happened and get in there some way. So it's just another good example of how the game is calling out the goals for the player and helping guide them. Alright, I'm going to stop this video here. I hope that you can get something out of the level design in Gone Home. I think it's really cool how you can explore the house in any way you want, more or less, and still have a narrative that works.